right, let's play the game of how long can I do this before the dog ruins the whole living room. Current record, all of 5 seconds. So what seemed about 9 million decades ago in 2020, me and a couple friends made a short film called Recurrence. Recurrence is the absolute epitome of spur-of-the-moment creativity. Originally, we just thought this was going to be a camera test, and then my DP and our other writer thought, that's dumb. Why don't we make a whole ass film? That's not dumb. So, welcome to part 1 of the making of Recurrence. And we're going to start off with cinematography. Recurrence is split up into 3 different sections. Library scene, outdoor adventuring, and we have our nighttime lost in thought, crazy ass going on scene. The first location, which was the library, was a real lesson in locations can provide you all your cinematography needs pretty easily. In one of the giant reading rooms, we had these beautiful kind of old style wooden walls, and more importantly, we had my favorite piece of lighting gear in the whole planet, big ass windows. Now with these giant windows, what we were provided with was a big old soft light, which was extremely pleasing on our actor's face. The only real issue in this location is that there was some ceiling lights that were kind of old that were giving off a green hue on our actor's face, but with a little bit of color correction in post, that was fixed in like 5 seconds, so we were good to go. There was also another giant window in the back of the reading room, which provided a very soft backlight, and everything about this scene just looked extremely pleasing. We were set to go. All we had to worry about was the framing. For this scene, we kept completely locked off. We really wanted to kind of sit in the headspace before we kind of kicked off into the more conflicting part of the storyline. It's a technique I try to use all the time in my filmmaking where I'll always start on sticks or something like that and then kind of tee it off going into handheld movements. It's kind of like setting up for the action. It's very basic. I'm not reinventing the wheel or anything here. It's just how I like to do things. The second part. Now this one was the most labor intensive because 1, we were freezing our butts off. 2, it was snowing. Sometimes a lot. With that came extremely cinematic footage. If I could film all of my movies in snow, I probably would. Now for this portion of the film, we kept completely handheld and we shot exclusively on the Helios 44-2 50mm lens, or I think it's 52. I don't know, it's Russian. Not that that really means anything. Anyway, we kept it very much in kind of the style that I've kind of always really done things, which is really being immersive and active with our lead character, whether that's walking around, him smoking a cigarette, him having internal conflicts with himself. We really let the weight of the camera kind of take us. So we weren't trying to like do like, you know, fake wobble or whatever. We just really wanted to go guerrilla on this one and kind of mix up my perfect worlds of documentary style filmmaking meeting cinematic style filmmaking. This was also the part in the film where we kind of traded off hands. Everyone in the crew, besides Mikey, of course, because he worked for the company that owns the camera, never really used the red in this kind of way. So everyone kind of got to sneak in their own shots. I got a few shots in. Our main sound guy, Aaron, and of course, Mikey still was a majority of the time our lead DP. I think even our BTS and Gaffer guy, Brandon Klein, also got some shots in. I'm not sure. I don't know. I'll text him, see if I'm alive. And this one was a lot of fun. We really didn't have this idea until the day before shooting. We were really just looking for good coverage, interesting shots and stuff that was gonna work in the edit, because we knew in the edit there was gonna be a lot of whooshing and a lot of active bits that were gonna really drive the narrative. And knowing that it was mostly voiceover, we just kind of went for it. As long as we have good cinematic images that really capture the immersion of the lead character, then the rest should fall in place. And I like to think it did. Third part, which was the night scene. For the night scene, we went right back to the Sigma Cine lenses because now we put the camera back on sticks for a majority of this scene. And thus we were supporting our visual language. If the camera was on sticks, we were going to use the Sigmas. If the camera was handheld, we were going to use the Helios. So that way our visual language was consistent throughout the entire film. I have a lot of thoughts about visual language, but we're gonna get into that in a separate video. That is a very deep topic. Now this scene actually had a lighting setup. I know, Davis using actual lights, crazy, right? He's lost himself. We had outside the window a Aperture 120D going through a large diffusion panel and blasting through the window. We had it angled enough where you could still see out the window, but we weren't giving off like a sunrise effect. Now that was acting as our key light and pretty much drove us the whole way. Now what we had going on just off to the side was just an LED softbox with a grid, just kind of casting this little bit of edged light on his hair. It's given us just enough little separation so that we didn't completely lose our character in the background darkness. And of course with the poem at the end that was written by our lead character and one of our writers, Rob Simmons, was about a lighthouse. So we're like, all right, let's get literal with this shit. We had Brandon outside simulating what was originally cars passing by the window, but then eventually we were just like, let's just roll with this whole lighthouse thing continuously and just have Brandon go back and forth with the 120D, causing this awesome lighthouse effect, especially when we went handheld and we went a little more hectic. The more energy we applied to the camera, the more we made the light spin. And it's probably, hands down, my favorite effect in the whole film. It kind of reminded me of a faster version of that scene in Blade Runner 2042, where Harrison Ford and Jared Leto are kind of waxing poetic and whatever. And you have this giant light fixture constantly rotating around the room, changing the lighting dynamics. Very, very nice. And as far as cinematography goes, that's really it. Our DB for the film, Mikey D'Amico, was working for a company called Mountain Craft in West Virginia. And I guess it was his turn to babysit the red. Mikey and the company was gracious enough to let us use the camera for a weekend. We didn't apply a lot into this because we knew just simple techniques were gonna drive this film home. And that's why we kept it so strong and consistent. We weren't really bogged down by extra crap. It was kind of pleasing. It's like most things in this world. Simple is better, and we mastered the simplicity, and we made a film that to this day I look back on and think, wow, this filmmaking thing is pretty doable, huh? And of course, with Rob, Brendan, Mikey, Aaron, Jeff, and everyone else who had a piece in this film, everyone put their best foot forward in a very sudden thing. Like seriously, it was like the day before we had this idea, and then we just bang, 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 just knocked it out. So the next video we're gonna get into for Recurrence is we're gonna get into the editing, which I believe is also one of the other more powerful parts of this film. So be sure to subscribe to the channel, keep in touch with us, and we will see you on the next one with more behind the scenes. And also, we might have some goodies coming in next week. Just saying. See ya.